Welcome to this audio session recording taken at the Agroforestry Show, which was organised in September 2023 as a partnership between the Woodland Trust and the Soil Association. For more session recordings, go to agroforestryshow.com or explore and subscribe to the Agroforestry Show YouTube channel. Enjoy!
Matthew's Nursery. We're a UK nursery. We specialise in fruit. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about our nursery today, a little bit about who we are, about what we grow, the UK production, let's talk about that for a bit, and then also why to consider planting fruit and nut as added value for agroforestry schemes. So I did have a lovely video to show you, but that hasn't quite come through very well, so I'm just going to tell you about the nursery. I didn't take any photos, so I thought the video would work, so apologies for that. So we're a family business. I'm a fourth generation and we've been growing trees for over 100 years. Our nursery is located in Worcestershire and it's all on one site. So everything that we grow there. We do import some trees, but if we can grow it in the UK, we do. We only import if we can't grow it for quantity reasons or for tricky subjects. And if there are tricky subjects, then we always try and make a big effort to incorporate that into our production. We are we are the biggest tree nursery of our type, and that's not a forestry tree nursery. I know there's lots of lovely forestry nurseries here today, but our speciality is in fruit and ornamental trees. We grow both container trees and bare root, and we supply them across a huge different range of spectrum of customers. So everything from garden centres, commercial growers, mail order companies, other nurseries with rootstock supply. You can even order just one tree from our website. So we really try and be able to satisfy everyone. We are different from forestry nurseries in that we don't grow anything from seed. So all of the production we do is vegetative production. So it's grown in three different ways, either from cuttings, which we literally take a piece of the plant and grow a new plant from that piece. And we do that with things like disease-resistant elms. But the majority of our stock is grown by budding and grafting. For doing that, we need two different parts of the tree. We have to grow the roots or the rootstock first. And then we bud or graft on a small piece of a mother material to make a new tree. Now, the reason we do this is we want the trees that we produce to be exactly the same as their mother plant. So if you order a Bramley tree, you want it to be a Bramley tree. If you're growing a Bramley tree from seed, that can have genetic variation. It's not going to be true to type. So we do that by budding and grafting. Rootstocks have been bred basically to make fruit growing easier. So they've bred most of them over 50 years ago, most of them in the UK. There's lots of rootstock breeding that goes on around the world now. And for a number of different reasons. So we can control the size of the tree. We can grow the smallest dwarf tree or the biggest, most vigorous seedling material and everything in between. That can help with lots of different types of soil structure and soil types. Also in the rootstock breeding is bred disease resistant for certain diseases. Things like wet feet, we can protect against that, woolly aphid. All these things naturally are in the rootstock to protect against them. It means we can grow a little bit more organically. We don't have to do so much spraying, etc. And the other reason is to bring trees into cropping quicker. So if you grow an apple from seed or you grow it on its own roots, it can take between 8 and 12 years to crop. With using modern rootstocks, we can bring that down to sort of 2 or 3 years. It means your project's a lot more viable. We grow and sell some forestry material, but that's not our speciality. We also have our own budwood and graftwood mother tree orchards that we have protected and inspected also to make sure they're nice and healthy. We keep fruiting materials of all the trees that we grow to make sure they're true to type and that we can compare fruit against fruit. And we also have our own in-house breeding where we're breeding with a number of different people across the UK. We're one of the only UK breeding houses still left. And we've bred some really great successful varieties over the years. Things like Apple Scrumptious, Red Windsor, some of the big commercial varieties have actually come from our nursery. And we're looking now to what varieties can we grow for the future? Can they be slightly more resistant to pest and disease, climate change, all of these sorts of things. So that's sort of a general summary of our nursery, really. So UK production. We grow our own rootstocks, and now rootstocks are not the easiest thing to grow. We've been growing them for the last 50 years. It's one of our passions. We absolutely love it. But about 10 years ago, we sort of thought, is this right for us to still be doing it? We can go and buy very cheap, very healthy, virus-free stock from Holland very easily. And so we sort of considered our own production. And we decided to carry on because we like to be in control of our own stock for UK provenance. And luckily, in the last few years, we see a real change and turn in customers and what they're asking for. Finally, people are actually asking for UK-grown stock. You know, they're thinking about where their stock comes from. There's quite a number of definitions of UK-grown. Some people think that UK-grown, if you buy a seed or a rootstock from abroad and you bring it in and you grow it in this country, that is classed as UK-grown. But we're now going into the detail, and customers, you know, in organisations like the Woodland Trust, they're saying, no, actually, we want a fully UK-grown plant. So our rootstock production now is becoming incredibly important to us. We grow apples, cherries, some plums, or we are increasing the plums, and pears. We used to do pears. They are quite tricky, but we will be starting to do pears again. But these things take a lot of time to do. If we decide to set up a new rootstock stool bed or layer bed, we are looking at least 3 or 4 years before we can take any stock, usable stock, off that material. And then you're still 2 years away from having a tree to plant. So we're trying to think 6, 7, 10, 20 years ahead. And will people still be wanting UK stock in those, in the future? I certainly hope so. We'd like to be still doing it for many generations to come. With this also comes a lot of long-term planning and investment. In the last few years, there have been grants available for forestry nurseries. Sadly, we've not been able to access any of those because we're not a forestry nursery. We're a different type of nursery, and there's no grant support for us. So anything that we do is self-invested. It's our commitment in time, in money, in land, in employing labour, local labour, which is full-time UK, and all of these things we have committed to as a business to hopefully make us stronger. With UK production, it does come at very small extra price. As I said before, we can easily go and get cheaper products elsewhere, but we're hoping that with the provenance that we can give to the trees, it's not actually a lot extra, but the extra £1 people might actually pay if they know that it's going to be a completely UK grown tree. Now, I think everyone here knows the benefits of planting trees. I don't have to convince you of that, but why plant fruit and nut trees with added value for agroforestry rather than forestry? And I'm not saying don't plant forestry or woodland. Absolutely do. We need those projects as well. But there's another angle that we can look at that's only really been considered in the last few years, and we're seeing a rise in these inquiries. Now, planting fruit trees, they are a little bit more expensive than a forestry tree. We feel that that is very much worth it because of the added value you can get at the end of your projects. So you're going to get a much better return on investment. We're planting that tree, spending a little bit more in the initial years, and you'll be able to get something back from it in the end. You're going to be diversifying your farm, spreading your risks. We do talk about species diversification. If we're all planting the same 12 native trees in bulk, we're going to end up with a serious problem in the future, because sooner or later there's going to be another ash dieback, no matter how good our plant health schemes are, and we're going to be reducing our armoury of trees against all these pests and diseases and climate change. We need the most diverse projects we can possibly get to spread around all of our farms to protect against these threats, these pest and disease threats, and climate change. We have no idea that the trees that we're planting now, are they going to be any good in 50 and 100 years? the only way we're going to find out is if we plant lots of different things and work out what works. Also, we know that not only is it better for soil health and wildlife, but brilliant for pollinators. So the more varieties that you have cropping and flowering at different times, the better. And there are so many options. So you've got fresh produce, fruit and nut production. You've got farm shop supply, drinks production, juicing, alcohol brewing, processing, making apple chips or dried fruit, confectionery and nuts, oil production from walnuts. We can also supply things like timber. There's been lots of good timber talks yesterday. And biomass, water extraction, for example, from certain types of biomass. The possibilities really are quite endless. And every farm has a different possibility. We should all be planting something different so we can be unique. If everyone goes out and plants cider apples or juicing apples, in 10 years' time, we're going to have a massive oversupply and no one's going to want to buy them. We need to be thinking about individual projects. So whether it be plums, cherries, apricots, peaches for changing climate, all this kind of thing. And we can help, and we bespoke tailor every single project we've worked on in agroforestry to that farm, that site, those soils. I did hear yesterday someone say that you can't grow fruit trees on heavy clay, and that is absolutely incorrect. You can't grow fruit trees on certain rootstocks and certain varieties on heavy clay, but there is rootstock selection out there for all sorts of types of trees. And for example, we've got one rootstock that we've been building for the last 10 years. It's absolutely perfect for wet areas and heavy clay. And so that's something that we would obviously recommend for that type of site. So we've got so much choice to suit your needs, site and situation. And I think the point is that there is a tree project out there for everyone. So anyway, we've got that's all from me. We've got questions at the end. Happy to take questions, and we've also got a trade stand here if anyone would like any more information. Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Tom Adams. I run a 6.5 acre organic fruit tree nursery on the North Shropshire, North Wales border. And I'm going to tell you about our organic agroforestry regenerative system that we grow our trees in. So we grow around 4,500 fruit trees per year, and we grow on a wide range of rootstocks. We buy all our rootstocks in from Frank Matthews. And yeah, we're Soil Association certified organic, and part of our system, part of the design involves a 7-year rotation, mostly for apples. So the idea is we're not planting apple trees in the same place for at least 7 years in order to help combat apple replant disease. So this is the design of our system. I had the ground for 2 years before doing anything. We planted a few rows of rootstocks in one of the corners just to get an idea of what we're doing, and this system is based upon widths of machinery, how far into the rows our sprayer will spray. We use a walk-behind tractor with various implements, and so the whole site is designed to the centimetre to suit various bits of equipment. And as you can see, we've broken our site up into an agroforestry system. So we have coppice, followed by cropping, coppice, cropping, coppice, cropping, and so it goes on. This is a photo of the site taken quite recently. We started planting the willow 3 winters ago, and we've already taken our first coppice from the willow. This winter we will be on to our 4th harvest of 1-year-old bare root maidens. And what we've got now is this lovely diverse site with nice thick dense coppices and wildflower strips. The plan for the entire site was that we're a closed loop system. The idea being that we grow all our fertility and pest control requirements on site. We're not quite there yet. Whether we actually get to that point or not, we don't know, but we're working towards it. So on-site fertility is grown in two forms. One is ramial chipped wood from short rotation coppice. So we've planted lots of willow strips. This picture here is of a nicely established willow tree from the old site. Like I say, we've taken one harvest from our willow on the new site after 2 years, but we'll slowly be building up to stools like this that will be creating loads of wood chip that we mulch our nursery stock with. So ramial chipped wood is wood chip created from hardwood trees under 7 centimetres diameter. It's that small diameter branches where those that are really full of nutrients. The lignins are soluble. It breaks down very nicely. There's a much higher nitrogen to carbon ratio in ramial chipped wood than there is in larger diameter wood. So if you chip large diameter wood and apply it fresh, it'll take a long time to break down, and it can take nitrogen out of the soil whilst decomposing, which can have a negative effect on your plants. So it's amazing stuff, and you can see the picture on the left with that fungal duff that builds into the soil, and it's amazing stuff. So yeah, we use this wood chip as a mulch for our nursery stock and to feed the soil, and it has a load of amazing benefits. So it's a weed suppressant, so it minimises the need for tillage. We prepare our ground before planting, we rotivate, we plant, and then we'll mulch our trees with the wood chip that we've harvested the November before. So we're planting in March, April, and mulching with wood chip that has been harvested a few months beforehand. It works really well as a weed suppressant. So the mulch is down for 2 years. We get some weeds coming through, a bit of dock, a bit of dandelion, a bit of couch grass, but you know, it doesn't take long to keep that down. That wood chip lasts there for 2 years. As we start to dig our trees out, you can see it's broken down nicely and is working its way back into the soil. It retains moisture really well. We've not had to do any irrigation whatsoever since we've started this new plot in the last 5 years. We've had quite a few droughts over the last few years, and our trees have been perfectly fine. I mean, that is partly testament to the soil. We've got amazing soil as well, but the wood chip keeps the moisture in. It's a great soil amendment. It breaks down and creates really good organic matter for the soil. It stimulates a white rot fungal activity in the soil, which helps to increase nutrient uptake. It will neutralise acidic soil. We had our soil tested when we first bought it, and we were around pH 5.5. And then we decided not to broadcast any lime or anything. We decided to concentrate on our growing spaces, increase the pH level by adding organic matter. It's really good for microorganisms in the soil. It increases the number of beneficial microorganisms in the soil. It increases soil organic carbon content, and it decreases soil bulk density and encourages larger structural porosity. So more organic matter in the soil essentially means better quality soil. The picture on the left is the willow after we've coppiced it after 2 growing seasons. So initially they were mostly single stem, now they're coming back multi-stemmed, and after a few cycles we're going to have nice dense stools that are going to be producing a huge amount of ramial chipped wood for us. And you can see the picture on the right, there's some nursery stock that has been well mulched with ramial chipped wood, and we grow white clover in between as a living mulch, and that white clover has a very shallow root system. It competes very little with our trees, and it works really well. So those coppice alleys that we have, they've they've got many other benefits, as is the case with agroforestry. So these coppice rows, they act as windbreaks, creating shelter, creating better microclimates for our growing conditions. They act as a wildlife corridor. They're constantly full of birds in amongst there. The long-tailed tits seem to love the willow. And attracting tits onto the site is great because they eat aphids, so we're attracting our predators by increasing the diversity of the site. It helps with water infiltration. Trees everywhere are really important in terms of allowing water infiltration into the soil. They'll help slow down the water runoff, which can help with stop flooding lower down. It can be a source of craft material. We're hoping that we're going to be producing more than enough wood chip for our needs, so we'll be able to use various bits of willow for basketry, maybe poles from the hazel for pea sticks and bean poles and the likes. They also create another microclimate. They're a moist, shady growing space where we're hoping to get into mushroom cultivation at some point. I mean, they add so much potential to your site. One of those potentials is forest garden principles. So all our rows run north-south, which means we have an east and a west, and we have a woodland edge. So the picture on the right is showing the west side of a coppice. You can see the picture on the right. There's willow to the left, there's our orchard to the right. You can see the cherry trees there. And we're utilising that western edge, which gets the stronger afternoon sun than the morning sun. And we're putting soft fruit in there. And even though it's competing with very fast-growing willow coppice, that Japanese wineberries that we've got up and down the row is fruiting quite heavily. And we've been grazing on that all year, and it's been amazing. So it's a case of utilising the woodland edges as well. So we're also propagating a whole range of mint and comfrey. So our eastern edges of these coppices, where the plan is to have big blocks of various types of mint and comfrey. The idea being that if we don't do anything with it, it flowers and it attracts predatory insects. It attracts a lot of beneficial insects, and it's great for wildlife. But we can do so much more with it as well. The comfrey makes an amazing compost. I have a feeling mint will make an amazing compost. There's a few other businesses working on site that I'll talk about in a minute, but the cut flower business loves the mint for its foliage. And again, it just creates so much potential. Having those trees in your system creates more niches that you can utilise. Our other form of soil improvement is using green manures. So our aim is to have bare soil for as short a time as possible. Having bare soil is no good. It releases carbon. Heavy rain can leach out nutrients. So we've constantly got a cover crop, and our ultimate aim before planting is to terminate the cover crop by rotivating around February time. We plant around March, and then all things being equal, we can mulch our trees straight away, and come April we can sow in between those rows with our white clover. So we're looking at bare soil for as short a time as possible, but doing all we can to continue to increase that fertility on site. Pest control comes in the form of floral strips. So we've got a whole range of wildflower strips, and just sowing seeds everywhere for wildflowers to attract pollinators and mostly predators. We had a really big issue with aphids at the start of this season, the worst we've ever had. It seems to be countrywide. I think it was too cold, too wet for ladybirds, lacewings and hoverflies to do their job. But at some point it warmed up, and then they came and did their job and got rid of them for us. So yeah, the larvae of ladybirds, lacewings and hoverfly are voracious predators of aphids, and they seem to be our biggest problem. So we're doing all we can to attract those creatures on site by increasing biodiversity, basically. That's the key. There's a ladybird larvae on the right there and a hoverfly on the left on the chicory. Hoverflies are also amazing for pollinating as well. So again, there's a strip of calendula that we've sown. So as well as attracting these creatures onto site, we want to keep them over winter, so we're providing as many overwintering homes as we can to keep these creatures on site. We're putting bird boxes up again to attract blue tits, and they will nibble away all day on aphids. So we're trying to do as many different things as we can to increase diversity and essentially get nature to do our work for us by creating this amazing biodiverse habitat. We've made bat boxes. Our plan is to put those up soon. Our orchard is quite young, so we're not getting too many pest problems at the moment, but codling moth and tortrix moth can be a problem. So very soon we'll be putting our bat boxes up, and those will be predating on moths. So again, increasing diversity and trying to get nature to do our work. So we've created this really lovely, healthy ecosystem that's full of birds, full of bees, full of insects, full of creatures. We're feeding our soil, making a really nice, healthy soil, and that in turn is helping us to produce really good quality trees. You know, we're a very small nursery. There's loads of small nurseries about, and I say we're up there with the best of the small nurseries. These are 1-year-old trees that we bud graft. They're that kind of a height. If you look at the quality of the roots there, you know, we're growing trees as good as Frank Matthews. You know, that's and Adam's apples. We're up there. We're up there. And that's because we're growing, you know, we've got this amazing soil, you know, we're looking after the system, and it's, yeah. And again, this year the trees are amazing. It's a real buzz being in amongst that system with stuff happening and real good quality growth going on. And again, yeah, this was taken about a month ago, so our cherry trees are already, you know, 1-year-old bud grafted cherry trees, already that high and really nice and strong and vibrant. And you can see, so yeah, that wood chip mulch has been down nearly 2 years, and it's lasting really well. So yeah, like Steph, we propagate using chip budding technique. We do that in the summertime. So our trees are in the ground for 2 years, which enables a really good, strong root system. And this is the kind of result you're getting. There's the bud graft there, and you get lovely stems with lovely feathered stems. So we talked about a closed loop system. We do bring a few things in. So we spray with seaweed extract and a garlic wash. I have tried making my own biofertilizers. I've had no success. So if anyone's got any tips or advice on that, I'd be really up for hearing that, because our plan is to be spraying with biofertilizers that we make on site. So yeah, it's a lovely place to be. We have a lot of community involvement there, so we work, we run pruning and grafting courses. We run volunteer sessions. We've been working with the Tree Council. The photo on the right is one of the coppices that we've planted, and again, I think the coppices that we have, it allows for so much more to be done. And you know, we're looking at getting schools involved. We were walking through a coppice the other day with Viminalis, the willow that was right above our heads, and it was so exciting being in there. It was like being in another world. It just adds so much more diversity to the site. It gives so much potential. It's become a great learning space. People come and visit from all over the country, learning about our techniques. So as part of our rotation, we have a few other businesses work on site. So there's the British Chamomile Company that makes chamomile tea. We've got Bronigarth Orchard Garden that grow veg. We have Blooming L that is a cut flower business. And all that works in our rotation with the nursery stock and with green manures, creating this amazing biodiverse habitat with good community as well. So through that experience, me and Ollie over there have set up an agroforestry consultancy service, offering aspects of design, carbon calculation, supply of trees and the likes. Do come and speak to us. We've got a tent over that way somewhere. Come and give us a shout and have a chat. Thank you.
Good morning. I am Charlie from. I'm the co-owner and founder of TreeSource, and I'm just going to tell you a little bit about what we do and what we're planning with our nursery. So our background is designing, managing treescapes for private clients, and we've been doing that for the past 25 years. And my particular passion is the understanding of the interaction between roots and soil. And so we've been working a lot historically with moving trees, veteran trees, and so that has led us into with our clients, persuading them to try and look at managing their landscapes, utilising the resources that they have on site and in a more regenerative way. So we've been helping them grow resilient trees as part of a diverse ecosystem, and with soil at the heart of all the work that we do. And so we've been focusing on client projects basically, and this has led us through this work and realizing that actually we were struggling to find a lot of the trees that we were looking for. So it led us into this idea of, actually we should have our own nursery, and maybe we can try and grow trees following the same principles, with soil being the key factor, growing organically and looking at soil diversity, fungal connectivity. And like I say, we were struggling to find the trees that we wanted, and originally it was oak, walnut, sweet chestnut. We just couldn't find that stock for our clients' projects, and we decided, well, let's have a go at trying to grow them ourselves and grow them from seed and grow them from a lot of the veteran trees that I had got to know over the years, and this idea came about. So we have acquired some land. It's 35 acres in total, just outside Bath, and it's pasture that has been grazed by sheep, hasn't been cultivated for 40 years at least, and we set about planning our nursery. So we're very lucky. It's very close to Bath. It's south-facing, and we have plentiful water. A lot of springs, drinking water straight from the ground, and the idea is that we will incorporate tree growing into the land, a regenerative management of the landscape. So instead of it being a tree nursery, we're trying to mimic natural regeneration through our trees, and actually it's more of just to have tree growing as part of the development of the woodland on the site. So try with the focus on increasing biodiversity across the whole site, but growing trees to provide income, and increasing nature habitat, and also allowing the local community to be involved in the project. So we are in organic conversion currently, and we've received funding from the Tree Production Capital Grant through the Forestry Commission. We have plans of growing 175,000 trees, propagated from seed, starting with walnuts, hazel and oak, and moving into more fruits, nuts and medicinal trees. And yeah, so the idea is that soil health is the key factor. We don't do anything that impacts that in a negative way. The idea is that we will be utilising solely wood chip as our compost, and so we've started by using pigs to break up the grass sward, and that's had amazing results. And then we'll plant into that. And so we've started planting our belts around the outside, which comprise of our parent trees, because the mission is that we will have our own seed source in the future, all on site. So and graft materials, etc. So we're trying to develop. It's a long-term plan, but introduce through not just planting trees, but actually trees that within which we can generate our own stock for sale. We'll be introducing coppice stands so that we can also utilise Raymil wood chip, which is a key feature in the work that we'll be doing. And Tom touched on that earlier on. And then also that from the coppice stands we'll be able to generate fencing materials and our tree stakes. With our tree planting, we don't tend to, we use Hessian as a wrap, and we just use timber stakes. So we're kind of trying to utilise what we've got on site as best as possible, and so it's as low input as possible. So we're at the moment we've sown a lot of seed into air pots, seed trays. The idea being that we're growing young trees in community so that we can encourage that fungal connectivity earlier on. And we're in trials at the moment, either sowing direct into the ground or using these seed trays. And the mission for the site really is that it becomes a kind of textbook of sharing knowledge. Yes, we'll be producing trees, but we'll be inviting people to come and share. It's a knowledge sharing experience. We're right at the beginning of what we're doing. Although we've been doing it for our clients for many years and have had some great results, we're inviting people to come and be a part of this, because we really believe that actually we can simplify these processes, and if we mimic natural regeneration by planting more densely and utilising just wood chip, we can actually generate really healthy, resilient trees. And we also plan to create a tree academy, so that we can introduce teenagers into working on the land with a focus on trees and soil. So our plans are, we've already started sowing many broadleaf seeds, which are in their first year, and looking at heritage fruits and nuts, medicinal trees, example, like witch hazel, Gelder rose, because there's a good market for that, and we tend to be importing most of the products, the herbal products, into this country, and actually we can grow a lot of those here, so we're looking into that. Threatened species, and obviously seed from ancient and veteran trees, and obviously climate adaptive species. So we're growing a lot of strawberry trees. We're doing some trials, cork oak, and lots of others, and just seeing how we can open the doors as the climate changes. Yes, really. The reason we set the nursery up was because we were struggling to find the stock that we needed for our nurseries, and the stock that we were finding was very expensive, for our clients. So this led us into starting the nursery, and we realised that there aren't any really. I think there's one other grower of organic broadleaf trees. So we thought we could see that actually the demand was there, and actually it would be nice to join them. and obviously organic tree seed. That doesn't seem to be anyone doing that. So hopefully with our seed stands, we'll be able to generate organic tree seed. And obviously with the increase of pest and disease concerns, it was another reason to start growing ourselves instead of importing. So our nursery is set out really in a sensitive way with the landscape. It's a very beautiful site, and we've got an area for trials, for agroforestry trials, and we will, at the moment, we're in planning for a kind of a barn for meetings and gathering, welfare, and yeah, at the moment we've really started planting all the boundaries. Enhancing existing hedgerows, which are really mature, predominantly hazel and field maple. Some very old trees there, which is really exciting to have that source. But other than that, there's no real tree stands. It's just open ground. We're lucky enough with the water that we have. There used to be a water ram pump. And so we're going to be reinstating that, and actually we've had help from the Forestry Commission to do that, which is really, really helpful and exciting that because of the fall of the land, we're able to pump water from the bottom using a ram pump without electricity, so that's great, yeah.
Last question? Sorry.
Sure.
Can you just explain how the ram pump works? Is that the solar panels?
No. It's just the power of the water falling down the slope is enough to turn. Yeah, so it's like you'd see pumping oil in the States. It's just a very small version of that. Effectively, it's just the force of the water turns it and pumps it back up. So this is our site, and this is interestingly we've got this. This is what will be the main propagation area, but we found out that this is a man-made growing strip, potentially very old, Celtic. So previously on the site, people were growing, producing food on the site, and potentially grapes as well, being close to Bath and being south-facing. So that's quite exciting to discover that. So these are the seed trays, we've been trialing this system. This is an air pot system, and obviously doing the same in the ground, and just seeing how the success rates compare. At the moment, sowing into the ground is proving to be far more successful. The squirrels seem to love being offered up their food in trays. So whereas in the ground, the trees, they don't even. Yeah, we've been leaving areas without unweeded, and the trees appear to do much better in the unweeded ground, which is quite an interesting find. And even once weeded, the trees were that were weeded were succumbing to mildew, which wasn't what we expected. I was thinking we'd be seeing mildew amongst the longer grass. So really, we're just trying to discover the easiest way to generate trees, resilient trees, in the most organic way. So this is just some of the sowing that we've been doing, playing with, instead of rows, spirals. So we're also planting in rows, sowing densely. On the right, you can see acorns there. So we're planting just casting acorns, and then the plan is to use the seedbed lifter to lift that strip and to shake out them into bare roots and plant them on. And here are some of the younger trees that were planted out. Some cork oak in the background. An English oak here, and this is some of our fruit trees that have gone into air pots. So we're just seeing what's the most effective way, and really the easiest way to generate trees. These are some of the trees coming through in the seed tables, which are heavily protected from the squirrels, but they still manage to eat through the chicken wire, even when it's electrified. Which is extraordinary. I totally underestimated the power of the squirrel in breaking you down. But interestingly, sown in the ground, we've had like 95% establishment of those seed, and that's just sown straight into the ground with only fenced along the sides for deer. So the squirrels have full access there, but they didn't bother with that, only been on the protected tables, which is quite interesting. So here this is what we're doing is planting. You can see in the centre there's a mature tree there, which was transplanted. We do a lot of transplanting of trees instead of felling with the chainsaw. So we extract trees that would be thinned, that might just either be dead hedged or chipped or not even big enough for logs really. But we'll actually scoop those out and take that evolved soil ecology and introduce it into a new ground and then plant around that. So within there are trees that were going to be felled, and we've actually taken them out of woodlands and introduced them there. So you have these hubs of evolved soil ecology. And we've planted quite densely, and there's quite a variety, quite a diverse mix of trees. There's oak, evergreen oak, there's cork oak, we've got some pioneer species in there, we've got downy birch, and all sorts of things in there. And that will be sown with a mix, with a herb layer, or just so that there is a good amount of forage between the trees. We protect just using Hessian wrap, which biodegrades. So we just allow that to rot down. That's very cheap. It's a very simple way of doing it, and is perfect deterrent for rabbits. Will chew on it, but it works really well. So just flicking to it again, like Tom. Here's some of our wood chip breaking down into our compost, and that's actually only 7 months old. So yeah. Here are the pigs doing their magic. Dense grass sward. Well, after they've been through, these are Tamworth, they dig really deep, they pull it right up, and after that we plant into that, and actually we don't need to do any weeding anymore. We find that actually leaving the grass to come back through means the soil holds the moisture better, and we do mulch with wood chip, of course, but we do that once a year. Other than that, we allow all the grass to come through, and we'll sow into that with a diverse mix of wildflower, and we plan to introduce certain things that we can gather for our own usage, some medicinal plants as well. So I just want to touch on one other thing, that what we've been trialling for the last couple of years is using sacrificial planting. So instead of fencing and spending the money on fencing from deer, we've been introducing a lot of pioneer species and taking trees out, those trees that were going to be felled out of woodlands, introducing those as coppice to come through, so introducing forageable things that aren't your most valuable stock. So there's a diverse mix of food throughout the plantation, so that actually it's okay. The deer, they'll browse on the coppice, and they'll have, there's enough food for them, and not to bother your most valuable trees. And we've done a 2-year trial on that. It's been really successful, and actually, it's a lot less of a spend than some of the fencing. So the pigs have become a really important part of the landscape. So one last thing I want to touch on, which we're really excited about, and we've been encouraging our clients to start their own tree nurseries. So so utilising their own seed and planting more densely, as I've touched on before, transplanting trees they have from their woodlands. So whether that's with a spade or a tree spade, depending on the site, and actually utilising resources they've already got in their woodlands. And we're finding that having those older trees within the new plantations are really, really helpful in hastening that connectivity with the Wood Wide Web. The most interesting thing with this is actually there's money to be made here, so you could create a woodland, but have a field, plant it densely, and as you thin that woodland and create your design, you can then sell those trees into the marketplace, and potentially we could have a network of people growing trees, they're growing those, and actually, help with this shortage in the market for tree growing. So we are consulting and helping people set up their own nurseries, which eventually will become a lovely woodland. So effectively looking at thinning and the trees as a living crop instead of just felling and wasting. So yeah, thank you very much. And if you have any questions, look forward to it. Cheers.
We'll now open the floor to questions. I'm also going to introduce John Tucker from the Woodland Trust. He, just to help answer any tough questions if we might have them. He has got 40 years experience in forestry, just under 30 years experience in woodland creation, woodland management and agroforestry at the Woodland Trust as well. So he is just sitting down here, so I might call upon him to help out if it's not just directed at the three great speakers that we've just had. Okay, thank you.
Hi, I guess this question mainly for Charlie. I'm Ollie from the Landworks Alliance, and we've had quite a few conversations with our forestry members about something you mentioned, the lack of tree species with local provenance for new planting schemes. And I guess that there's a local provenance issue. There's also a climate resilience issue that people are grappling with, that both those things. But I think particularly we wanted to sort of help create a network of tree nurseries around the country that could respond to those local needs. And you talked about that a bit at the end, and I just wonder if there's anything that you think is what are the particular best things that we need to do to try and create that national network of tree nurseries and tree resource? Is there something that we could be doing that we're not? I don't mean we, Landworks Alliance, we've got limited resources. I mean we, everybody.
Tree Bay, that's what I've been thinking about. As a way of, if you don't need to produce a lot of trees. It's possible for one. You can, and it's scalable and it's easy to grow from seed. And actually, you're just creating woodland. If you look at woodland creation as a way of generating young trees as well, I think that it's just how do we bring everyone together and work out. Because obviously, some areas are better for growing some trees than others, and it depends what's in the environment around. And also some people might wish to look at more climate adaptive species as well and introduce those into a more diverse multi-strata mix. So I'm thinking about it a lot and how to do that, and it'd be great to talk more to you about it because this is the first time I've been able to sort of talk about it, and I think it's very possible and it's easier than we think, and looking at those resources, on-site resources carefully, actually it's very easy to do it, and foresters need to look at using a spade, transplanting as well as a saw.
Hiya, my name is Alex. I work for one of England's community forests and I run a community tree nursery. We're currently going through the process of getting biosecurity accreditation through the Plant Healthy scheme. I was wondering which schemes the three of you have, whether it's the UK Sourced and Grown or the Plant Healthy scheme, and any challenges you faced. I mean, I'm finding a lot of paperwork, but apart from that, it's nothing insurmountable. And most of the things we're doing informally, it's just formalising it. So I was wondering how you're finding that, all three of you.
Yeah. So we've also just completed our Plant Healthy, going through that scheme. We should get tick off and be able to use the logo soon. A huge amount of paperwork, I would agree with you. A lot of risk assessments, double-checking our procedures, making sure that the things that we were already doing are now recognised. I think these things are very important. More companies, more organisations are asking for accreditations now. Another one is the UK plant passporting. So to make sure that everyone is involved in that, if you're looking for a tree nursery, that they should definitely be in the plant passport scheme. That sounds like your trees are going in and out of the country. It's not. It's just a way of AFA being able to come to site and inspect us and make sure that we're all doing what we should do in terms of pest and disease. So those are the two main ones that we're involved in. And other than that, we're very conscious that we're doing everything correctly. But I'm sure there'll be more in the future. And there'll be a lot of people that will start asking for more things. No doubt there'll be more lines and tick boxes that we have to do in the future.
I can talk about the UK ISG assurance scheme a little bit in terms of that's the Woodland Trust one that we have. That's our created one that's been going for, where are we at now? Probably 7 years, I think. So that is more designed for forestry purposes rather than fruit and nut trees at the moment, and we are working to make it more suitable for fruit and nut trees. So if you are growing trees that are for forestry purposes, admittedly, we are working to help support community nurseries to fit into that at the moment. I would say it's not that's not my job day to day. But if you were to email, not that you're going to remember this necessarily, but if you email treeprocurement@woodlandtrust.org.uk, then they will help explain exactly what is involved in that scheme and may be able to help you out with that.
Yes, I wanted to come back on those two questions, then ask a question myself, just because Community Tree Nurseries and Plant Healthy Certificate, there's a government-funded programme, Trees Outside Woodland, and there's a pilot going on at the moment that my charity, More Trees in Devon, is part of, that's looking at how group clusters for the Plant Healthy Certificate can work. So if you're not part of that pilot and doing it on your own, I'm sorry to hear that. We're experiencing the joy of being the group leader. So we've got our audit happening and a DEFRA official is coming to see us so we can talk to them about the challenges of, well, all nurseries, but particularly community tree nurseries. So happy to link up separately. And Ollie from the Land Workers Alliance, I think your point is so important to the work that we do in Devon. It's about how do we create a network of community nurseries, other more commercial nurseries that are locally specific. We grow native broadleaf trees, collect the seeds on Dartmoor, plant them back on Dartmoor, hyper-local. But everyone, this is my question after I've done a slide, excited to join up with more community tree nurseries. But we actually have made a shift from bare root trees to actually growing more of our trees in cells, just to sort of go out, part of an intention to think that we might be able to slightly extend what was a shrinking planting season. But with the cell-grown trees for us of native broadleaf, that's looking really positive, and we've been able to seriously increase our production levels up to about 60,000 trees across our 2 nurseries now. But just keen from experience of the panel, really, about cell-grown versus bare root trees, and any words of warning or encouragement as well.
Yeah, I only grow bare root trees, and it's, from a growing point of view, it's so much simpler. You need much less infrastructure. Your trees are getting less stressed unless you're watering them. Like Steph's place, their potted trees are watered like 7 times a day to reduce that stress. But yeah, bare root trees are so much easier. It does narrow your selling window and narrows the planting window, but yeah, for me it's much easier, and you've got good, strong, healthy root systems.
So I suppose I've come at this growing side from the other way up. Originally we were planting huge trees and transplanting huge trees and importing very big trees, and so I've come from a place of containers, and what I've realised, I find over the years, is that with the cell-grown stock, the roots tend to stay close and potentially require more watering. Although there's less transplant shock, in some ways I think that not going through that urgent need to establish means that they can sit a little bit longer and potentially be prone to more water stress. Obviously they're grown in this lovely medium, and then you're introducing that, so I've just come the other way and finding that the trees appear to settle in quicker and require less maintenance.
I would agree with that. We don't grow cell-grown trees, but we grow a lot of trees in pots that you'll see around. Fantastic for extending the planting window. I would agree with Charlie that there's a danger that if they're planted too late in the spring, and we have these really dry springs that we've had, so they're much better for sort of September through to November planting when you get the bare root coming along. Not as good for the environment because we're using now peat-free compost, but it is still compost that is manufactured. So I think that has to be taken into account as well. And also water usage. They can't, be irrigated in the ground or just sit in the ground. They have to be manually watered. So water storage, water usage also increases, and the costs, they're a little bit more expensive. But they are a great option. I think probably the two should be used together.
I run a small tree nursery on the side of the Mendip Hills, and I've got between 5,000 and 6,000 trees in the ground. It's only about half an acre. I grow in the ground primarily. This spring I had access to some wood chip, which was only a couple of months old. I put that and planted my seedling hawthorns into that, and they did not like it at all. So I'm wondering what I'm doing wrong. It was mixed local woodland wood chip. I don't have the space to grow specific wood chip. Should I stop using it, or should I, what should I be doing to preserve my soils, to increase my water retention, but not have dying hawthorns on my hands?
What sort of depth were you dressing with compost?
About an inch and a half to 2 inches, I suppose,
okay.
And then a little gap made to put the tiny seedlings into.
And were they into the soil below?
They should have been. I didn't do all the planting myself, so I can't guarantee that.
It does sound. I wouldn't use wood chip of that age as a dress of that size. I would. Because, as Tom alluded to earlier, the nitrifying bacteria it becomes a detrimental thing. Also, when it's fresh, it actually can be if it's not very wet after application, it can actually be quite drying. It's an odd thing. It needs to go through that process. It needs to take on enough water to start to degrade. It can. So I have also had that experience. And I think it's down to, it needs to sit that bit longer and ensure that the ground is well wet at point of application, because obviously it will it'll soak the water before wetting the ground. So that time of year of application is important. I think maybe it's just quite young.
Is there anything specific about the willow, or is that just what you are doing yourself?
Are you using willow wood chip?
No.
What kind of wood chip are you using?
It was from Coppicing Ahead, so it was mainly hazel, hawthorn, a little bit of ash, a little bit of other species.
Okay, so small diameter. Was it Ramiel chipped wood, or from large diameter?
Well, we were Coppicing Ahead, so it was a variable.
Right. Okay. Well, maybe let it compost beforehand. We don't have any problem. We're planting rootstocks that. This is the size of tree that we're mulching, and they're very strong. And I guess if you're planting smaller seedlings, then maybe let it compost beforehand.
Right. Thank you.
Can I just add to that, maybe? I think that it's important there's ramiel wood chipping and then there's wood chipping. And ramiel, Ben Raskin knows all about, is this idea of actually applying fresh green wood, where normally wood chip you'd be allowing it to break down. And then you tend to be using it as a thicker dressing, whereas with ramiel you can actually dress over large areas very finely, and it can be really beneficial that way. So there is a separation between the two, and they have their benefits. Ramiel, if applied at the right time and chipped at the right time, is really effective in a number of ways, and I gather it's really good for suppressing. Particularly willow, isn't it, for suppressing blights? in orchards and stuff. Is that?
Yeah, the willow has salicylic acid, which can potentially help combat scab in fruit trees as well.
I'm a newcomer into agroforestry and I'm planning to plant nut trees. The first speaker said that we shouldn't be using seeds, but the last speaker said we should use seeds. That seems to be the source of many more trees. And in terms of nuts, what about when you bend the branches over and then they root? Is that the same as cell propagation you were talking about? I don't know.
So when you're talking about nuts, obviously we've got a number of native nuts. Now they're all growing from seeds, so we don't know actually what the progeny is going to come in once the tree is grown. One thing that's great for the varieties that they're using is that they do come very true from seeds, and that's why they can use them from seed. If you're looking for specific nuts that you want for eating, that are reliable, that will crop every year, that have certain flavours or sizes or crop at certain times, there are known varieties that we propagate vegetatively. And because we're propagating those vegetatively, we know exactly when they're going to come, at what size they're going to be, how flavourful they are, which ones are good for oil production. So it's just about what you want to do with the nuts, from my point of view anyway.
I think I didn't make it clear. I mean, the nursery the idea was driven by growing from seed of broadleaf trees, but obviously my interest is introducing trees for agroforestry, forest garden models, and that will mean that we will be we're planting our parent stock, but we will end up having to grow the most of those because they'll be named varieties. We'll have to grow through vegetative grafting, budding, etc., and root layering, as you touched on. So that's separate from cell growing. That's a form of generating a name for getting another plant that's the same as the parent. Getting another plant that's the same as the parent plant. So it's another form of propagation. Cell grown is a method for putting a young plant into. It's in an individual cell, and it's easier to transplant and doesn't have any transplant shop.
Charlie, you mentioned airpot seed trays. You also mentioned growing seeds in these kind of spiral shapes as opposed to in lateral lines. I was just wondering if you could explain the advantage or possibly the disadvantage of airpots, and also why you're growing or why you're thinking of growing those seedlings in that kind of spiral mechanism. The third question, I'm the Somerset tree strategist, and as such, trying to coordinate a group of very, very enthusiastic potential nursery enthusiasts, and all of them getting hold of me saying, James, is there a sort of hub that we could get together so we could coordinate some of our enthusiasm, some of our finance, some of our expertise, or indeed lack of it? And so I don't know if your alliance might be able to assist with that.
I'll just quickly pop in there, because I was just thinking of saying at the end, it sounds to me like it would be useful if next year here we maybe organise just a circle meet-up of all...
You're going ahead of yourself with the next year here.
Next year, I don't mean here, I just mean at the next available opportunity that we get a lot of these tree nurseries together and we just meet in a bit more of a circular way and work out what we need to do to help each other. And if I'm able to help do that, I will.
And if I am as well, then great. Do you want to answer?
Okay. So the airpot is a system that it's quite a clever system of encouraging greater oxygen through the root system, and it does seem to help trees establish quicker and grow faster. And what years ago Q started asking them to make a seed tray, and we just started. From visiting them, I thought I'd follow in their footsteps because I like the idea of sowing seeds in community as opposed to individual cells. So that's we're in trials with that basically at the moment. Another benefit of the airpot is that the taproot is pruned via the air, so you don't have to undercut later on. So there are benefits of growing in a seed tray. You don't have to go if you're growing bare root, you don't need to undercut your stock. So that's something we're trialling. One disadvantage of that is the squirrels absolutely love them, but other than that, and they need irrigating a lot. But the jury's out on that still. And the other question, what was spirals? Ah, yes. Well, I suppose it came out of an idea of wind movement through rows, and I just thought, actually, energetically and going with patterns in nature, perhaps it was interesting to start looking at that, just a different way of doing it. Obviously, the management, if you are managing, and access can become more complicated, and setting out is a lot more complicated, but it's just, we were having some fun with that and actually interested to see if there is anything in it. Yeah.
Just a quick one. 2 points that you raised. One was about the distraction of the deer using sacrificial species. I wondered, on the list of gourmet items that deer prefer, what is what are the best species as a distractant from the valuable things? And just on the Hessian, is that doing a similar job to cardboard on the land, actually acting as a mulch?
So willow appears to be the number one. I think it's because it rubs really nicely and it must feel really good. So they can rub that, and if it's coppiced, you've got these lovely fresh shoots which can be, you can choose to see, what height you coppice at. At the moment it's willow and birch, but I think willow just produces a lovely tender shoot and is so easy. And quite easily available, so it's low cost, fast growing. Actually, and they seem to be drawn to that. And your other question, sorry?
Just about the Hessian, is it?
Oh yes, yeah. So the Hessian is just literally, it's on a roll. It looks like a bandage that you'd buy, and we just wrap that around, tie that off, and use that also for the tree tie. And that will last 2 seasons, and then it will just rot off, and it's just adds to the rest of it. Yeah, it's just,
Sorry, where do you buy the plat from, and what's that made from?
It is made from jute, I believe, or, well, I'd need to check that, actually, and I think I saw someone with the Green Tech t-shirt on. Perhaps they sell it. Tom's Tree Ties sell it. They also have a thing called Nature Tie, which is a bit thicker, which is hemp, which is really good, but it's a bit thicker. I prefer the bandage. But it's very inexpensive, and you don't have this issue of having to go and loosen ties later on.
As you mentioned again about the deer and just generally trying to work with nature a little bit more, it sounds like you guys are doing. I just was intrigued by what your biodiversity in your nurseries are in terms of for insects and things like that. I did come in a little bit late, so you might have talked about this before. I'm sorry if you did.
Sorry, what did you say? The biodiversity?
Yeah, just biodiversity on the nurseries. So just whether or not, basically, are you working kind of with nature to be able to? It sounds you're doing everything organically and things like that, which is great. And then just how you found your the insect population and things like that, kind of within.
Yeah. So from an aphid point of view, which is our biggest problem. We constantly see ladybird, lacewing, and hoverfly larvae on the trees doing their job, and they're reducing the numbers of that pest quite dramatically. We've had quite a very low caterpillar incidence this year. It could be down to the fact that we've got more birds on site. I mean, there might be a low caterpillar population this year generally in the country. I'm not sure, but caterpillar problems has reduced quite dramatically over the last few years as biodiversity has increased.
Yeah, 2 quick questions. One for Steph was about why are some rootstocks harder to propagate than others? So I understand that plum, for example, is very difficult. So that was question 1. And then question for Charlie. Lots of community sort of nurseries seem to they use a greenfield site to start. Any thoughts about using a woodland site? So you've got more mycorrhiza to start with. So thanks.
So yeah, apple's very easy. We do a lot of apple rootstock production. They're all on stool or layer beds. Pears or quince would be done in the same way, but they don't last as long. So an apple stool bed can last up to 30 years, and you've got your initial sort of 3 to 4 years set up. So that's, relatively that's fine. Quince and pear stocks are a lot shorter lived. They may only last have a good 3 years. So if you spent 3 years setting it up and then you get only 3 years, it can make it quite costly. And Plums in general in this country are more difficult because they're just more susceptible to disease. So with us being, we're checked regularly throughout the season with AFA, and we find that more of our plum stocks have to get taken out. So we obviously never use anything that's found to have any sort of disease, and so again it just pushes the price up. We have to have a huge amount of plum stocks to be able to get out a reasonable quantity in the end. So that for a time when we were questioning our rootstock production, we were sort of thinking, well, we can easily buy these in. Should we be going through this ourselves? Yes, with the demand, we are going to continue. We're going to make sort of that sacrifice, and hopefully they will be slightly more expensive. But hopefully, with the UK provenance, people will be accepting of that price. Yeah. Charlie.
That's where we need more support from the likes of the Woodland Trust to commit to buy-in. If Steph's going to be spending this time on putting those beds in and creating rootstocks that are difficult to grow in this country, it's these bigger organisations like the Woodland Trust that need to commit to be buying them in the future.
Yeah, ideally, yeah, woodlands is where the nurseries should be, and that's where they always were. And we're working with 2 estates where they have just finished some forestry work. And in the heart of one of the Clearfell sites where they're taking down the conifer, going back to broadleaf natives. We have an area for growing, and yeah, that's the ideal location. If you want to grow trees, the easiest and the most resilient trees, that's the place to do it. So yeah, or woodland edge, ideally. Yeah.
Great. I have to leave it there, I'm afraid, because the bell went a long time ago. I knew there'd be some fantastic questions. I'd like to say thank you to you all for coming, and thank you, most importantly, to our speakers today, Steph, Tom, and Charlie. I think we've definitely learned some key lessons there, which you'll remember, I'm sure, and we'll all be working together more closely going forward.
Thank you for listening. We'd like to thank our lead sponsor, Sainsbury's, and our other major sponsors, Farmers Weekly Transition, Forestry Commission, and Till Hill, and all the attendees for making this show such an overwhelming success. To get advice and support for your agroforestry project, either visit woodlandtrust.org.uk/plant or soilassociation.org/agroforestry.